Hello, and Merry Christmas. Welcome to my concert, being broadcast from my humble estate, as it were. 2020 has been anything but normal, and this concert is a little different than previous concerts that I've given. For one thing, there's no live audience. I'm basically playing this live to tape, and so I guess that means if I tell any jokes, I won't really know if they're bad because I can't hear you laugh or not. So there you go. There it is. But this will be a little different. I'll try not to ramble too much, but I'll try also to kind of keep it in the the idea of the way I usually run my program. So in other words, I'll talk a little bit about the piece I'm going to play before I play it, and then kind of go from there. But because it is being broadcast from my home, I sadly don't own an organ, so I won't be able to do some of the organ components to the program that I originally intended. Nor will we do any sort of singing per se. I'll just simply play some of the selections from my new album, which is really what I'm kind of promoting in this concert. I just recently recorded a Christmas album. It's called Christmas Joy, and I invite you to take a look at that. Or better yet, you'll get to hear some of the offerings as I perform them for you today. So without further ado, I'll just go ahead and dive in and start playing, and then, like I said, I'll come back and kind of talk about each of the pieces. I'm going to open first with my arrangement of Hark the Herald Angels Sing. And what I kind of do in this arrangement is three things, or you can kind of think of it as each stanza has its own character. So the first idea, or the opening statement, is eighth notes in the right hand, and a left-handed or bass melody is being played. Now the melody at the beginning is just sort of an original melody I came up with, but as I keep the right hand going following that melody, I introduce the classic carol that we all know and love. This then sets up kind of a transition following the melody to a new key and a new mood. And so in the second iteration of the carol, it's a little more lyrical, it's a little more relaxed, the tempo's slowed just a bit, and it's a little more expressive. Sometimes we refer to this as rubato style. There's a little bit of robbing from the tempo. It's a little fast, a little slow, but it kind of ebbs and flows, if you will. And then that section leads to the final section, which is basically sort of a majestic section. It's a bit slower. It's a little more regal, if you will, a little more full board piano. So, and then there's kind of a surprise at the end, a little bit of a deceptive cadence, kind of adds a little bit of tension, leading to the nice climactic ending. So there's the piece in a nutshell. I hope you enjoy it. This next selection is another familiar carol, Away in a Manger. Now, what's interesting, though, about this particular carol, there's a couple others that fall into this camp, but this one especially has two other melodies for the same text. And depending on where you grew up, what your faith tradition was, denomination, that sort of thing, this melody may not be as familiar, but it is the American melody, and so more often than not, I think people in this country know it as such. It's the what we call the Mueller melody, and it's like I said, it's certainly the one I grew up with. So, but not that the other two melodies aren't equally as beautiful, and I guess that gives me material to try other arrangements later. But I chose the Mueller melody for this one. And this one's pretty straightforward the way I constructed it. It starts with an introduction, and then we hear the first iteration of the melody. But what I chose to do is the introduction, the melody of the introduction, I use it throughout the piece. So we start with this introduction melody, which is kind of extended. It's a longer introduction. Then after we hear the melody once, I go back and quote a portion of that introduction melody, which now becomes my bridge for the second iteration. And what I do in the second iteration is I use an accompaniment figure that I'm very, very fond of. It's called the Alberti bass. And it's basically just... it's that kind of figure. It's basically a broken chord, so there's your little theory lesson for the day. But I'm very fond of that style of accompaniment, and so I use that in the second iteration of this carol, and I take the melody up an octave, so it kind of gives it a different flavor as well. And then following that, I quote briefly the last portion of the original melody, and then I go, or of the carol, excuse me, and then I go back to that introduction sort of melody to kind of close out the arrangement. So I hope you enjoy it. Here is Away in a Manger. This next carol is probably one of my favorites. Not that I don't like any of the other carols I've played so far, but Christmas just isn't Christmas unless I've had a chance to sing it, this carol, at least once or twice. And that's Angels We Have Heard on High. And in this arrangement, what I kind of attempt to do is sort of pay homage, if you will, to classical composers. So I tend to kind of write it with a little more of a classical style of accompaniment in several sections. The beginning portion starts with sort of a single ostinato syncopated figure, and so that figure against the melody kind of gives it a little bit of a push-pull. Syncopation is just simply kind of emphasizing the weaker counts. So you have this syncopated figure going against the steady beat of the melody, and it gives it sort of a push-pull flavor. The chorus is where I kind of employ this, what I call classical style of accompaniment. So I use that, and then I continue that accompaniment into an original melody that acts as my bridge and also my closing at the end of the piece. The second iteration of the carol, it's changed key at this point, the accompaniment has changed, and also the tempo is slowed down just a bit. So there's a neat kind of effect that happens in the second iteration of the chorus. So in the new key, the chorus, you listen for it, it's just simply a descending line against the melody, so it creates kind of a cascading effect between what we'd call the alto and the soprano. So I think you'll be able to kind of, again, hear that even if you don't understand the explanation of it. It's just a descending line against the melody, so kind of they beautifully sort of dovetail off each other. So, and then the final section's in a new key, but it's the chorus setting that I used at the beginning, just in a different key. So here is Angels We Have Heard on High. My next selection for this program is, of course, another familiar carol. Pretty much from this point forward, they're all carols. And it is O Little Town of Bethlehem, another beloved classic. And in this arrangement, what I do is just sort of, again, kind of follow a little bit of a formulaic model for this piece. After a short introduction, we hear the melody. What I choose to do with this one, though, is I choose to begin the melody kind of in the upper register of the keyboard, and then later on I move to kind of more of the middle register to kind of just sort of kind of mix it up a little bit. So I think you'll like this one. I hope you enjoy it, and I will just go ahead and begin straight away with this. And so we come to the end of this program. Thank you so much for watching wherever you are. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it put a smile on your face and maybe a song in your heart, as it were. Before we go, I would be remiss if I didn't just plug for a moment a couple of things that I have. I now have my own website promoting my music, BJ Meyer Music, all one word, bjmeyermusic.com. If you haven't already, take a moment and go and check it out. You'll find sort of the backstory on how I got into music, and in particular how I got into playing the piano here and the organ, as well as you'll find some recordings that I've put out in recent years. You'll find there an organ album that I put out previously, a piano album that I recorded just a couple years ago, and now my current album, Christmas Joy, that I just put out, featuring many of these selections here that I just performed. And you can purchase those there, both in CD format, or if you don't need the CD but you want the music, you also have the ability to purchase those as digital downloads. So as you buy those, you'll be sent a link to download them, and then you can put them on a USB stick and put them in your car, or just listen to them on your computer or iPod, whatever is your preferred listening device. So check that out. If you happen to be a pianist or an organist, or you know somebody that plays the keyboard, I have a sheet music section that you can visit and peruse. And all of the selections I played here today are available for purchase, as well as other selections that I've just written and arranged over the years. So take a moment, check that out. I'm also on YouTube and Facebook with the same handle, BJ Meyer Music, on both of those forums. Please go there, YouTube, subscribe and like. That helps me anytime you like and subscribe to something. YouTube and Facebook, it kind of pushes up that page in the algorithm. So as more and more people like and subscribe, it allows more and more people to find out about me, because then it shows YouTube and Facebook that there's interest. And so then other people start seeing it just through the exposure of you liking it or sharing it and that sort of thing. So so please do that. I'd be greatly appreciative. If you don't want any of those things, but you simply want to slide me a few bucks, I will certainly welcome that as well. I have bills to pay just like everybody else. If you go to bjmeyermusic.com and scroll to the very bottom of that homepage, there's a donate button on there. You can slide me a few bucks and I will love you forever. So there you go. That is my sales pitch. So, all right. My last selection is probably going to seem weird when you hear the title. It's O Come All Ye Faithful. Why would I put that last? I put it last because of the way it's constructed and the way it's written. It just felt to me like a great closer. So it begins basically very straightforward. There's not really an introduction per se, at least in the traditional sense. I mean, there is, but it's not an original introduction. It's just simply a quote of the last refrain line, "Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord." It starts very boldly, and then it goes into kind of a triplet feel in the left hand with the melody in the right hand. It kind of creates sort of a dual meter kind of thing. It's a neat effect. I think you'll like it. It's fun to play. The second section, once again, kind of following form, is a bit more reflective and a bit more lyrical, a little slower, new key. However, from the second to the third section, I do something a little different in that I write a new sort of melody that I haven't used anywhere else in the piece. In some of my other arrangements, I would just sort of repurpose an introduction or a phrase and kind of fragment it. But here, I write just sort of a fanfare-like transition that leads us into the final section, which is a bit more triumphant, new key, and just kind of full board keyboard, full range. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much. God bless you. Merry Christmas. Again, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. God bless you all. I hope you have a Merry Christmas. And once again, check out bjmeyermusic.com. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.